Welcome to Module 1. What's the difference between diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging? There are significant differences between diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. One way to know the difference is that diversity is a fact, equity is a choice, inclusion is an action, belonging is an outcome. You must know the difference of each and how to build upon each other in order to create a more equitable organization. We will dig deeper into each throughout this module. Lesson 1, defining diversity. Let's start with an activity. I want you to grab a sheet of paper and something to write with. On the top half of the paper, I want you to print your name with your right hand. On the bottom half of the paper, print your name with your left hand. Hold on to that paper. We'll get back to it later. Now, imagine you are applying to my fictitious organization. It has everything you dreamed of in an organization, so you are excited to potentially join the team. You arrive at the organization. You notice images of current and past executive directors, senior leaders, and board members. They all appear to be white and male. You meet me, a hiring manager, who will conduct your interview. I shake your hand with my left hand. You find that a bit odd, but you don't dwell on it. I share some information with you. I do a general introduction. I say how excited I am to meet you, and I compliment many of your skills and accolades that are on your resume. The conversation continues, and I share a bit more about the organization. Here goes. We are a large arts organization located in the New England area. We have a strong commitment to diversity. We have a new diversity initiative to recruit more right-handed people. We've done all the surveys and collected a lot of data. We found that right-handed people don't stay in our organization. Historically, we've been a left-handed organization. Although only 10% of the world is left-handed, the organization's founders were left-handed, and our executive director and all the senior leadership are left-handed. So the culture continued. All of the doorknobs are on the left-hand side of the doors. It's expected that you write all reports with your left hand. We shake with our left hands, among other things. But these are just carryovers from the past, and we don't really think much of it. However, for some reason, right-handed people either don't qualify for employment or they don't stick around very long. Either way, we are really focused on increasing our numbers of right-handed, well-qualified employees. So, to ensure you are a cultural fit, we have a small, insignificant, completely fair writing test that you are expected to complete before you arrived. It's a tool for us to measure your competency with left-handed writing. We believe this left-handed writing test helps us to accurately measure your abilities to be successful as an employee. We use a similar test in our performance evaluations and as a primary factor for determining promotion. Therefore, the results of the test will determine whether or not we will offer you an opportunity in the organization. Now, let's reflect for a moment. Look at how you wrote your name using both hands. Do you see a difference? Is it small or significant? Who may have an advantage with this test? Probably people who write predominantly with their left hand or are ambidextrous, right? Who might be at a disadvantage? Probably people who write predominantly with their right hand or have a disability that makes it difficult or doesn't allow them to write. Whether you are right-handed, left-handed, able to write with both hands, or have a physical disability, do you think such a test is an adequate reflection of your capabilities? Are the practices of this organization in line with its right-handed diversity goals? Do you see challenges with this evaluation process? If so, what are they? Is the test a fair test? How do you define fair? What is the test measuring, and is that something that should be measured? Is the test adequate to determine a well-qualified employee? How do you think the organization is defining well-qualified? Pause the video, take a few minutes to write your answers to these questions. Also, write down any thoughts or questions that come up for you. Once you've finished, restart the video and continue with the lesson. Of course, this is a fictitious organization with a humorous diversity metric. However, we can use this story to help us better understand the differences between diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Let's explore what diversity is. Diversity is a quantifiable determination of who works within the organization or who the organization serves. Understanding how your organization defines diversity is critical. This helps to determine how you define, measure, and implement a diverse and inclusive work environment. Without this definition, it's unclear what you are trying to do and nearly impossible to measure success. There are a variety of different ways an organization can define diversity. Let's review 4 dimensions of diversity that could apply to your organization. Inherent. This is a dimension of diversity we can't control. It includes primary identifiers such as age, race, gender, ethnicity, sexuality, country of origin, body shape and size, and physical and mental ability. This is a common approach to defining diversity. It is grounded in compliance with the law and has roots in the civil rights movement. It recognizes past exclusion efforts and seeks to address and resolve those historical challenges using contemporary methods and strategies. For example, an organization may recognize that women historically have not had access to senior leadership, or people of certain racial backgrounds are rarely promoted. A focus on the inherent dimension of diversity pays attention to the connections between people's identity and their access to success within the organization and within the industry. If an organization disregards this connection, it ignores how people are experiencing and matriculating through the organization. Therefore, it perpetuates harm that law and social justice efforts have worked to address. The left-handed organization appears to have defined diversity within this dimension, but does not appear to have any mechanisms or goals to address people with inherent diversity identities. 2, external. The second dimension of diversity focuses on parts of identity we have some degree of control over. This includes parental or family status, marital status, religion, geographic location, language or accent, working style, communication style, and appearance. Although many of these external identity markers do not directly align with inherent dimensions of diversity, they often have a clear connection. For example, some languages, accents, and religious practices can be tied to ethnicity or race. However, the external dimension of diversity allows for an organization to broaden its definition of diversity to include other identities that might be negatively impacted by policy, practices, and workplace culture that does not support people's success. Being left-handed, right-handed, or ambidextrous is something that is generally learned. Therefore, it's something that we have some degree of control over. We can't change our ethnicity, age, or country of origin, but we could learn how to write with a different hand. The key question when defining diversity using the external dimension is Are we taking into account how inherent and external dimensions of diversity overlap, conflict, or work with each other? 3, organizational. The third dimension of diversity focuses on how people are grouped in the workplace. This includes industry, tenure within the organization, education, work experience, the division or department where someone works, management status, union affiliation, role in the company, and their network within the organization. This dimension of diversity does not directly speak to the inherent and external dimensions of diversity. However, too often, someone's management status or work experience is predetermined by someone's inherent and external identity markers based on the organization's culture. Number 4, cultural. The fourth dimension of diversity is focused on interpretation of diversity norms and traditions within the workplace. This approach investigates how people work with each other and within their roles, given the policies and procedures created by the organization. Examples include, but are not limited to, how people in power or authority shape the organization's views, the role of competition or cooperation among colleagues, and if work schedules are flexible or structured. Do people get personal space to work, or are there shared desks? Do employees get time to observe holidays or express forms of spirituality? Is there an expectation of people to work individually or as a team? What is the role of social activism from employees or as an organization? How you define diversity as an organization impacts how you communicate, problem solve, how decisions are made, and relationships are formed within the organization and with external stakeholders. Having an inclusive environment is an action-oriented part of diversity. To build a culture of engagement, respect, and innovation, you have to be clear about who you include and why. Activity. Take a moment to reflect. Write down your response to the following questions. 1. Imagine you are a manager or frontline staff within your organization. If your ability to be promoted or receive a bonus was dependent upon your ability to write with your left hand in a way that was acceptable to your organization, how likely do you think it would be for you to get a promotion or bonus? If you are left-handed, there's a strong possibility you would do well in the organization. Do you think that's a fair process for right-handed people or people unable to write? Why or why not? Pause the video to respond to these questions. Once complete, rejoin me for the rest of the lesson. Thank you for sticking with me through this left-handed organization focused on right-hand diversity. We're going to keep using it through this module. Consider taking a moment to think about what inherent dimensions of diversity could you exchange for left-handedness. Might there be identifiers such as age, race, gender, ethnicity, sexuality, country of origin, body shape and size, and physical or mental ability that are prevalent in your organization? In the United States, we have 8 general status quo identifiers that can be seen as quote unquote normal. These identifiers include white, male, Christian, middle class, heterosexual, English speaking, citizen, and able-bodied. If you go somewhere else in the world, their list may be different. But in the United States, we implicitly or explicitly center people with these identities. Take a moment to reflect how many people within leadership, middle management, and frontline staff have these 8 status quo identifiers and who does not. Consider where they lie in the hierarchy within your organization. See if you notice any trends. The goal is not to ask your employees or your colleagues about their sexuality or openly share any mental or physical disabilities they may have. The goal here is awareness, as you are considering who is and who is not in your organization. See you in lesson 2.